I'm looking for a feeling. I'm looking for that feeling I had when I was 12 years old, and I'll probably still chase it all the way till I'm 112 years old. If I record some music and I'm not getting the feeling after a number of listens, it's not right.
Hey everyone, I'm Katie Darrell, and today we are at home and social with Pete Yorn. Pete, you have been described by Pace Magazine as a risk taker. Do you feel risky?
I'm a major risk taker, big adrenaline junkie, and that's how I roll. And everybody seems to know it.
Drive fast, take chances, write crazy songs that blow people's minds. There he is, Pete Yorn.
Yes, I think I take risks by writing music that I don't know if anybody else will like, but myself. That's the riskiest thing I do, I think.
And is your music self-serving? Is it like, as long as you're happy, then that's all that matters? Or do the cockroaches come crawling into your head and you think about others?
It has to start from me. Like, I have to be excited about it. It's cliche. People say like, "Oh, it's a therapy," whatever. But I think it is sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. But I do like writing songs and making music that gets me excited, or something that I'm interested in. And so I know I have to start from that place, because I never know what anyone else is gonna like. I can't pick a hit. I can't pick, I'll think this is the best song, and then people like this song. So I'm just like, all right, well, I just got to do what I like. And hopefully that ends up, keeping me not having to get a day job, or this is my day job, I guess. But
yeah. A phrase like risk taker, don't you think it could kind of be described for most artists, all artists, songwriters, and performers? Because I mean, it's a risky profession to begin with, and that's maybe the camaraderie that you share, is that it is risky, and so everyone's a bit of a risk taker in the industry.
yeah, I mean, the percentage of success stories is tiny. We see lots of success stories flash in front of our face all the time, because that's the media and what we're exposed to. But there's just it's a shot, it's a moonshot every time. And I was reading some earlier today, and I thought about, like, what if my little daughter, she's the same age as your kids, 6, in a few years is like, "Daddy, I want to become a singer." Or even when she's young, it's not a bit, okay, cool. But when she's like 21, 22, and she's like, "I really want to do this," I feel like a lot of parents, like my own parents, would be like, they get scared at the last minute. They support you growing up, they're supporting all this creativity, and they love to see it. And then as soon as you like want to get serious about it, they're like, "Wait, you're supposed to go to law school," and I'm like, but I feel like I would tell my daughter, this is going to be really hard, and and it's you might not succeed, but I want you to know, if you don't succeed, it might not even be a reflection on you. It could be a reflection on the business, and just how hard that it is to succeed, even if you're so talented. And so you need a lot of luck, a lot of timing, and a thick skin. So yeah, being an artist is being a risk taker, if you're a person that even cares about that. If you're a person who's kind of just like, those brain doesn't work that way and doesn't even see it as a risk, then maybe you're not a risk taker. Maybe you're just crazy. I don't know.
Do you think it would be easier for you to support a songwriter's dream for your daughter? Is it easier for you to support a dream for her than it maybe was for your parents, because you've actually gone through it, lived it? And I don't want to use the word nepotism, but you have the connections, right? Your dad was a dentist or something like that, right? So he probably was really like, "I don't know how I can even help you here, Pete." Whereas at least you could be like, "I have a Rolodex, so I can really help support and give you an infrastructure to succeed." Do you think it's easier as a parent to want to support a dream if it was within that same industry?
That's twofold. I don't know how I would, like I said, I think I know how I would react. I'd support her and just warn her that it's going to be really hard. So, and if you don't make it in that, you'll try something else, but if this is what you really want to do, as far as, it's weird, like all the people that I know who came from like famous parents or successful, but like they had a harder time in a lot of ways. Like I rarely see them make it in the industry, to be honest. Like they would dip in, but it'd be really hard to get out of the shadow of the parent.
Let's talk about this new album of yours, Hawaii. It's a tricky one if you just look at the cover because it's not Hawaii. So a little
No.
beneath the surface stuff happening here on this album, and a lot of COVID talk. I mean, listen, I've read 1,001 interviews lately just to prepare for this moment with you, and you are very direct about how COVID really helped shape this album and a lot of the storytelling that's going on. Paint the picture for us.
Yeah, well, like I feel like talking about COVID does feel probably boring to people, but I was saying that, you can't really trace the the timeline of this album without dipping back into the lockdowns and the full quarantine time, because that's where I started writing it. And I think the concept to why it was one day it was, I think it was given to me by my little daughter, Leb, who was probably 5 at the time. She came walking out. It was that prime, lockdown. We don't know what's going on. You're scrubbing every package that comes in. You just like, what are we doing? Like no one's going to work. It's just like weird times. And normally I was kind of enjoying the family life, but I'd have a day or two here and there where I would get like this existential dread. And I was sitting outside in the backyard in the valley. I mean, no, in the desert, excuse me. And she came walking out, and when she was little, we used to take her to Hawaii, and she always loved it. It's like her favorite place. And she just goes, "Daddy, this could be like Hawaii back here." And I just looked at her, and I was so stuck in my head at that moment. I looked at her and I was like, simple shift in perspective. It was like, you know, wherever you go, there you are. It's like I've been to Hawaii and had great trips, and I've been to Hawaii and has been in a bad headspace and couldn't enjoy it because I couldn't get out of my own head. And so I think she reminded me of that. And I was like, whenever I make this record, I'm calling it Hawaii, because not only was it that to kind of, realize that so much, wherever you go, there you are, you're stuck with yourself. So you better reconcile that. And there's so much of that in the characters and the songs. But the other thing was there's this, Hawaii is the most isolated island chain in the world. So there was this feeling of isolation, but at the same time, Hawaii is like, everyone wants to go to Hawaii. It's this dream. It's an archetype in your mind, not just to Americans, but I think people all over the world. And even you were speaking before of a trip that almost didn't happen because of some things that came up. And so everyone wants to escape to Hawaii. And I remember thinking during that quarantine lockdown time, like, where could I go where I could just feel normal again? Like, just like, and you would see there was like no cases there at that time. It was just like so chill. And so it really resonated with me. And so a lot of the characters on the record deal with this isolation and trying to figure out how to move forward and dealing with their own state of mind. And I just thought it was a really iconic title. So
were you worried at all while writing, or conscientious while writing this album, to want to infuse hope or a silver lining and like not bum people out? Were you like, oh, I've got a couple bummers, we need to trade in a couple of uppers on this one?
Well, I think the music's kind of upbeat. The music for the most part is pretty happy. And if you look through my catalogs, I usually trick people into listening to sad. Well, sometimes I have just blatantly sad songs with sad music, but a lot of times I have, I'm always kind of like, the verse is like troubled, and then the chorus is like, here's the hope, like Elizabeth Taylor, for instance, the verse is the stream of consciousness, talking about the things that were maybe bothering the character. But then the chorus is like, I'll find my own way. It's like, it's about self-reliance in the end. It's like, I will figure it out, and I don't need anybody to help me or tell me how to do it. So there's a lot of that within songs where they shift back and forth from, all the voices in our head, from the ones that's like, oh man, I can't do this, the one that's like, oh no, we're going to do this, so there's in there.
It's been more than 20 years since your big old debut album that really got America excited about Pete Yorn was released. It was about 2001 that gave us Music for the Morning After. What did you learn since then that you really stick to your guns, where you're like, this, I will never release an album and do that again? And have you stuck to those guns from that lesson from the first album?
Yeah, I mean, the first record was, I hate to use this word, but it was a magical time. It was, you only release your first record once, and, no one has any idea like no one's putting any labels on you yet. You're not thinking about it from anywhere else but from yourself. It's just you and your music, you know, at that point. And you know, I've always had an open mind. I've, you know, sometimes I see exactly what I want, or I know it as soon as I hear it. And other times I'm kind of experimenting to find that thing. But like, I'm a type of artist who works on just pure feeling. Most of the time I've written songs many ways where, you know, sometimes it's lyrics first, sometimes it's music first, but other times it's just, I'm looking for a feeling. I'm looking for that feeling I had when I was 12 years old, and I'll probably still chase it all the way till I'm 112 years old. 12 years old, heard a song for the first time, say it was a Smith song or a Cure song, and it just gave you that feeling. And I didn't even hear the words. I didn't even care about the words. It was just, I like the way this works together, and it makes me want to dress a certain way, do my hair a certain way, look at girls a certain way, whatever it was. That's why I'm in it, is to just chase that feeling, you know, and it starts from there. So I will say, if I record some music and I'm not getting the feeling after number of listens, it's not right, and I'm not ready to go there with, not ready to put it out. So, and I won't. I feel like it changes too. Like there are a couple records I put out where there was one record I put out that I won't name it, but I didn't even like it at the time. I liked it, but I was like, I liked the demos better. And I was like, I wish I did the demos and put those out instead. But in hindsight, that's like, you know, 12 years or longer after, I went back to that record. I don't listen to my music really after I put out, very, you know, once in a while, I'll dick back in, but I went back to that record. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, get out of that moment and listen to it with a clear head. I was like, it's a pretty good record. I liked it. So, you know, you got to be aware of that stuff. And I'm sure, you know, as you grow and experience more, you know how to kind of navigate through all that stuff, you know?
For those of you just joining us, I'm Katie Darrell. He is Pete Yorn. Pete's new album is called Hawaii. Early in your career, to support and promote your albums, you did a lot of the record store acoustic performances. And luckily with this one, we get to see you at BeachLife Ranch, which is a great location coming up this summer. Tell me about the mood a location can give you as a performer. I mean, being in a record store, people jammed up against you, versus looking at the beach on the horizon and people in bathing suits in front of you.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect on that one, but that's going to be like my first show back since like February 2020. I played my last show was in Austin, Texas, for a charity thing for an animal shelter situation. But yeah, it seems like it's outdoors, which I like, and it seems like it's like, you know, a festival situation, and so yeah, it'll be fun. I always traditionally have liked playing all different venues, you know, indoor, outdoor, record stores, acoustics. I love playing solo acoustic, but this is with my band, this show. So I'm looking forward to whipping my band back together and getting everybody, you know, playing some music.
Are you a backstage mingler, or do you have a social anxiety where you're like, I'm just going to stay in my dressing room and not introduce myself to the Lumineers or whoever is next door? Like, what's your social anxiety levels?
Yeah, it varies. Listen, I'm coming back to the game in September for the first time, really. So since the world changed a little bit, so I don't know. I can't really base it on pre 2020 habits, but before a show, typically I'll hang a little, and then like usually like 20 minutes before, I kind of like, all right, I gotta go just get in the zone and be by myself normally.
Are you a yoga guy, a meditation? Do you have any rituals?
Drugs, lots of drugs.
Isn't that the answer for everything, kids?
No, meditating, I've been really consistent with it. And I read this wonderful book a few months ago by a woman, a scientist, a neuroscientist named Amishi P. Jha, I think her name is. And it was about attention I think it's called like Peak Mind, and it was about just keeping attention, because I noticed that my mind would just drift and I would be impatient, and I wouldn't be able to focus on one conversation, and I'd be jumping from here to there. And I noticed something I did for years since I was a kid. I was always a little hyperactive, and didn't have ADD or anything like that, but I would just have a short attention span sometimes. And so I read this book, and it just talked about mindfulness meditation, that as little as 12 minutes a day, and she backed it up with so much scientific evidence, will help you. And just as simple as just focusing on your breath, traditional stuff like that. And I never liked to do that stuff in the past. And I started doing it. Now it's like flossing. I can't go to bed without doing it. I got to do it every day. And my dad was a dentist, and I never flossed.
I was going to say, I literally have a flossing question for you.
You do? Good. Yeah, I can't go to bed without flossing anymore. And the other night, for the first time in like 5 years, I had brushed my teeth, flossed, and then I forgot. And I like went downstairs, and there was like a piece of food down there, and I was like, oh, I just flossed. I got to do it again. But yeah, so meditation's very nice. Being present with my daughter's amazing. Like I said, I have a 6-year-old, and she like definitely is a good distraction, if you put it that way. Just like, Daddy, get me this. And I'm like, okay. And like just focusing on that is very nice, brings me right into the present moment, which is super, super excellent.
Spending so much time with your daughter, I'm sure you hear a lot of kid jingles and kid songs and kid type music on shows and whatnot. Do you ever find, like, when you are just working on a song on your own, some of that stuff starts to come in and you're just like, did I just do a Pokemon jingle?
Well, it's funny, that stuff, the melodies sneak into your mind, your unconscious mind, or whatever it is, and they might reappear somewhere else with you not even realizing it. But I will say, I was thinking about it before, like, there's music that she wants to hear in the car on her playlist, which isn't even like kids music. It's like just some artists I maybe wouldn't have listened to previously, but I'm now a fan of, because there's a repetitiveness about, when you hear something over and over, you kind of either say, all right, we're not listening to this anymore, or you kind of start to like it. And then I also have a connection with her where it makes me think of her, and so she's got me into a lot of music that I feel like I would have been snobby about a few years ago.
And now it's okay to sing along to Mbop by Hanson for some reason. What?
No, she hasn't pulled that one out. So yeah, she has pretty good taste. She's pulling out stuff that, like, maybe I not stuff I just hadn't dug into. Like, they're popular artists, and stuff I just hadn't really dug into, and she naturally just gravitates toward it. Like, I'm not trying to force like my stuff on her. Like, I like seeing what she naturally gets into, and there's a couple times I got to veto it, but like most of the time I'm like, all right, cool, yeah, it's fun.
The new album is called Hawaii, and it has a potpourri of influences and sounds involved. There's the 60s surf, there's the 70s punk, the 80s Britpop, the 90s indie. I mean, let's just name drop a couple of the influences that you love from each of those kind of eras and genres. When you talk 60s surf, where do you naturally go? Who do you want to applaud?
Well, the Brian Wilson, the Beach Boys are the obvious, one there. But you get bands like the Zombies, which some people might not consider surf, but I hear it. The Monks were a really early kind of proto-punk band that had a really great feel. That were way before punk even broke. They were USGI's stationed in Germany, I think, and they shaved their head like with like the monk haircut, and they wore monk outfits, and they had a great record called Black Monk Time, and it's mind-blowing when you think of what year it came out. Dick Dale, that kind of guitar playing for sure. I love like a lot of reverb on a guitar, a little a tight delay. And Jackson, who I work with, is a big fan of that sort of stuff as well. So that's some of that for you.
And who gets credit for that awesome photograph on the cover of the album Hawaii?
Oh, that was taken by Pete Yorn.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, it looks refreshing. Although it wasn't Hawaii, it does make you think you are in Hawaii.
That's
So
the
well
point.
done.
That's the point of it. It's like, you know, it's playing with
Lying to
that.
consumers. That's the point of it, Katie.
Well, it just says the word Hawaii. It doesn't necessarily say this is a photograph from Hawaii.
It's true. Buyer beware.
And that's the point of the whole concept to me, you know, is when you flip it over, then you see it's a pool with a silly floaty thing in it. You know, if you look at the back album, it tells you what's really going on.
Awesome. Well, Pete, thank you so much for hanging out today. Everyone needs to go out and grab the new album. It is called Hawaii, and Pete is hitting the road finally. He's getting out there. BeachLife Ranch is right around the corner. So grab your tickets now and go support a great songwriter who's a risk taker. Hey there! Thanks for watching AXS TV. Subscribe, follow, like, and do all the good stuff. And make sure you leave a comment below. I don't know, just let us know what your favorite AXS TV show is, or who your favorite bands are, and what artists you're into, or just say hi, man. I like to be told hi. We love hearing from you. That's the point, all right? Keep it coming.